performer with bands Chasing Laika, Ever Since We Met, visual artist, and lighting designer born and raised in Toronto, Ontario. Her practice is rooted in creative collaboration, the joy of exploration, and artistic expression as both a form of self-care as well as a catalyst for growth. So I'm going to pass it to Rachel for our workshop on lighting.
Hi, everybody. Can I just get a thumbs up if you can hear me? Yay. Okay, so I wanted to just get started with this little poll with this question to get you thinking. Everybody has a kind of standout experience in their mind, in my experience, of a time that they went to a show and the lighting or the visuals really kind of hit home. I'm going to be giving you a broad overview about what you can do as an artist to elevate your set with lighting. So I don't want you to think about the details. I want you to think about the feeling. I want you to think about the emotion. So take a second just to get warmed up a little bit and scan the QR code. And if you do have an example of a memory, put it down. Also, if you can, write in the chat. I'd love for anybody to introduce yourself with just your name, maybe one of your favorite artists from high school. That's very revealing. And if you have any experience with concert lighting. Oh, yes, thank you, Emma. If you go to menti.com here, you can enter the code instead of scanning it. Okay, wait. Okay, cool. I'll give it just a second for that. And in just a minute, I want to look at some of the responses, see what you guys said. There's already 22, which is awesome. Okay. Ooh, Lizzie McAlpine set design and lighting for her older tour. Bruno Mars, I saw a lot of it. That Tame Impala, that one, people's stories of it were absurd. The Lady Gaga one is a standout one for me. I saw that, and she made the whole giant Scotiabank Arena feel like you were in a different environment, feel like you were in a small theater. I was also at the Mania tour for Fall Out Boy, and I agree. Yeah. So Tame Impala coming up twice. That's not an accident. Let's see, what else do we got? Eras tour. Yeah. The green screen. Oh, wait, you can't see because I'm blocking it. Let me get out of the way. It says, I saw Renee Rapp. She had a lot of cool green screen visuals on screen as if she was in a newspaper. Bring Me the Horizon, Maneskin, The Offspring. Oh, okay, cool. All right. We could do this for hours, but let's get to the presentation. Okay. Welcome to Elevate Your Set, a beginner's guide to stage lighting by me. I am Rachel Halpern. I'm an artist. I'm a designer, specifically lighting designer, but it all kind of comes together to create a perfect live experience. I have been doing this for a few years now, since completing a program in interactive media management and then stage lighting and video. So the whole thing that got me into lighting was the feeling of being part of something larger. My thesis in my interactive media program explored how you can feel connected to an experience, how you can not increase, you can surpass the audience's expectations by making them feel like they're part of it. The example that I have here is from the band The Wonder Years. They did a scaled down version of their tour with like a string orchestra, and they had all of these lamps all over the place that made you feel like you were in this intimate living room with them, which I absolutely loved. The reason I got everybody to show me some examples was to just kind of like remind you of that feeling of when you were in it, when you kind of felt it really strongly. So, oh, hold on. Yeah, okay, good. So lighting is tied to your set design, is tied to your branding, is tied to everything else that kind of comes together to create your artistic vision. A lot of people wait until they're at a higher level with bigger production to actually start thinking about the lighting, but you can be doing shows at a small bar, at a showcase, at an open mic, in a basement. And you can start cultivating the colors, the looks, the brightness that people automatically see and they associate with you. I chose this photo because I used two fixtures here that I've started bringing to a lot of the shows that I either perform at or do lighting for. Behind the visual identity sign there is a moon that was from some little electronics store, and I started putting that on my amp. So next to me was always a little gorgeous little moon projected on my amp, and then I have this disco ball light that can change colors. And I usually have that going on behind a set and then changing the colors between the sets. So one band is always red, one band is always green. And doing this across different shows with different people, it puts you in a very specific place, especially when you look at the media after and you can tell who's performing and you can recognize it from a previous time. Um, I wanted to show one example of an artist that has a piece of lighting that they tie to their visual identity that I really appreciate. So this, and I've got their permission for this, is a Toronto band called Techno Westerns. Um, Here is their set. They're set from North by Northeast, and they have this big LED glowing fixture that they built like a decade ago. And they're able to change the color of it. Not quite live, but someone else can kind of go and change it. And it's in like every single one of their videos, every single one of their performances. And it really kind of portrays the almost like 1975 Arctic Monkeys Tumblr era thing that they're going for. And I appreciate it so much. So there aren't very many artists that I see in the local scene that are doing something like this. So having something that you bring with you that people see and recognize can make you stand out so much. Okay, let me get back to this. Okay, evocation. So I want everybody to either have a piece of paper or just your phone, or you can type it out on your computer. But I want you to think about your artistic vision, your set, your songs, wherever you are at your practice. And I want you to imagine like what you want it to, for lack of better words, give. Like when somebody comes to your performance or listens to your music, what experience do you want them to have? That could be as something as simple as I want them to feel like they are at in my garden. They are outside with me at my garden party. Or maybe we're all in a submarine underwater, or I want everybody to feel warm and invited. Um, Yes, please feel free to share in the chat, but I also have a place to do it here. Should you want to enter my word cloud, it's the same presentation. Let me get the QR code. Yes, you can share it in the chat, but also put it here. I want to hear from you guys, fellow artists. What do you want your performance to feel like? While you're doing that, the context, another part of my thesis, something very important was at every show, people should feel like they are leaving something and or giving something, and they should feel like they are taking something. So what do you want people to take from this experience? Garden, yes. Adrenaline, catharsis, secluded, safe, movie. Oh, this is awesome. Um, Personally, my inspiration is best kept in a Pinterest board. These kinds of words, you can write them really big, put them on your wall. It is so important that you have these pivotal things to build each and every one of your shows around. And when you're thinking about something like prop, set design, lighting, Having things like this to create that world around is where it's going to come across the best. You are not trying to make a incredible, flashing, complicated light show. You are trying to put your audience in a specific perspective, point of view to be able to experience what you want to show them. So we got emotional was there a few times. That's awesome. Comfortable. That's a really big one for me, especially with lights. You think about like over simulation, visibility is a really massive one. You don't want people to think about their anxiety or discomfort while they're at the performance. Flying, I love that. Cinematic, that's gorgeous. Okay, what else is here? Inspired, inclusion, warm, 2006. Oh, that's awesome. I love a time. I love an era. If you can walk into a show and you feel transported into a different time, then you're doing something right, certainly. Okay, let's move on. This is awesome. Thank you guys for participating. This is so cool. Okay, so let's talk backline. Uh, you are probably familiar with getting a list of backline from anywhere that you are performing, and sometimes they have a list of lights, but usually they do not. So I want to go over really quickly when you walk into a venue, what are you usually going to see and what can you do with it before thinking about bringing anything, programming anything, like the absolute basics. The place that I have put in, which way am I facing? This picture is Array Space. They've got these beautiful fairy lights. They've got a few spotlights in the ceiling, and then they've got two colored lights, and that's it. The light green ones on the side and the disco ball are mine. That's a perfect example of the disco that I bring around with me. Oh, and wait, I'm blocking it actually, but my moon is in this. There it is, the moon. Okay, so here, it's a little blurry, but this is something that's really terrifying to every artist that I meet. This is your most standard basic DMX controller. DMX is how lights communicate with each other and how we communicate with lights. It's a protocol. The sliders that you see are corresponding with channels. The lights that I own would be red, green, blue. So if this was connected to my light, the first fader here controls red, the second one controls green, and the third one controls blue. If I have a light that has red, green, blue, and white, this would be indicated on the fixture or in the manual. Then it would be red, green, blue, white. Often in a lot of smaller or even medium-sized venues, they have all the lights on the same address, which means when you give it instructions with these faders, all of them respond at once. So you turn on just the red, and all the lights will turn on red. You turn on red and blue, and all the lights will be purple. On the side here, these are called scanners. This tells the machine which lights to talk to. So a good example of this is at the Horseshoe Tavern. They have something, I don't know if it's this one exactly or it looks just like this. When you click this first one, it'll light up and it controls just the ones at the back. If you click the second one, it would control like just the lights on the side. If you have both of them on, it would control everything. So this area tells it what to talk to, and this area tells it what colors to send out. The rest of it, you can honestly ignore right now. You can deep dive into this if you would like, but when you see this at a venue and you want to just set up your colors and your brightness, that's all you have to know. This is not an XLR cable. It's not. This is a DMX cable. I have an example right here. It looks like an XLR cable. It's got 3 pins. Sometimes they'll have 5, but the actual, even though the connectors are the same, the cable is different. It has a different amount of impedance and the signal is sent differently. You can, in a pinch, use instrument cables to connect your lights, and most audio techs and most people at rental places will tell you to use XLR. But if you start to add any moving lights or you have a bunch of fixtures in a row, it will begin to lose power. The signal will not travel the same, and you'll start to see errors, especially in the middle of the chain. The signal goes from the start to the end and then bounces back, and it kind of adds all together in the center and gets messed up. So you are able to use XLR, but please, if you're putting together anything complicated, do not depend on it and get yourself some specifically DMX cable. Okay, so here is an example of how things start to come together. So you have your board, and it gets sent with the DMX cable to your first light, which is me for all intents and purposes right now. And each light has a little electronic label on the back that says its address. So that's where to find that light. So the first one would have an address of 1. The second one here would have an address of 17. The reason for this is the simple controllers here, they give each light a space of 17 so that you can have like red, green, blue, white, a million different colors. Well, sorry, 16 different colors, just in case to accommodate for different ones without being more complicated. So the first one starts at 1, and then you would address the second one at 17. You would change the address of your third one to 33. But what a lot of these venues will do is they'll put all of them on address 1. That's why when you select the first little button there, like I was talking about before, and you change all of the faders, it'll go to everything that has address 1. So maybe all the lights at the back have address 1, and all the ones at the side have address 17. So it'll be broken up by address. And if you don't know what's what and it's not labeled, you're able to go and look at the back of the fixture, and it'll tell you what the address is. So if you need to know, oh, which one am I controlling with this scanner number 1, you can actually go and physically check. Most of the troubleshooting with lighting in these places comes from going, checking everything's actually plugged in, and checking the addresses. That's important. This is the same light as before, and it's also the same light that I actually have and bring to gigs. And they look kind of like this. So here's what you see when you look at the back. You've got DMX in and out. You've got power in and out, so you can daisy chain them. Going back here, you can see that you connect from one light to the next, to the next, to the next. You don't need to keep connecting from the controller to every single light. Also, this is the most like technically dense part of this presentation, so stick with me for this now. I'll have all the resources linked so you can look at it later, but I just want to show you like the scariest part of what you're going to see. Okay, so you take your controller, you have the cable going into one light, and then coming out of that and going to the next one. You can change the address here. You can change the mode in a lot of lights. So whether it's just using red, green, blue, or if it's using like red, green, blue, white, UV, amber, whatever. You don't need to connect these to a controller at all, actually. You can set the color values, like make the red go at 100%, make the blue go at 50%. You can have it automatically go between colors, and you can put it in a sound activated mode. These lights are the ones that you will rent from Long and McQuaid. This and the slightly simpler version are the ones that they have that most small artists are going and renting. So you don't need a controller. And if you plug this into another one, it connects them, and you put them on an automatic color changing mode, and both will go at the same time, the same color. I tend to stay away from the sound activated mode just because you can't really control it, and having random flashing colors isn't what you want for a whole entire set. Okay. This is the other one that you will see. There are 2 types of light fixtures typically you will rent at Long and McQuaid, and it is those PAR cans and this. This is the Yorkville LED 4X. I will also link to this and the manual. This is everywhere. This has no screen to choose the address. Instead, it has this thing. It's called a dip switch, and it uses binary to say what the address is. I will not be telling you how to calculate it, and you do not need to learn how to calculate it. You can Google dip switch calculator. How do I make it address 1? How do I make it address 17? And it will tell you. Most of lighting, because it's such a dense topic, you cannot possibly memorize all of it. It's a question of where can you go to find the resources. So let's say you go to, where has this? Tapestry has this, Geary Warehouse has this, and a lot of people rent them. You can change the brightness of it with these ones here. You change the mode and the color with this, and I think this is overall brightness. If you are plugging this into one of the foot controllers that Yorkdale makes, you will use this set of plugs. But if you're not doing that, if you're doing anything else, you will use the normal DMX set of plugs. Some of the older ones of these only have their proprietary set, and you can't plug it into a controller. You can't plug it into any other lights. So if you are ever renting this, please make sure that it has normal DMX ins and outs. Remember, I will also give you the resources for this. But so the LED 4X and the Orcan 4 or the older one, Orcan 3, those are the fixtures that you will typically see. Does anybody have any specific questions or concerns about these two main fixtures that you have access to? Please feel free to write in the chat. Okay, I'll keep an eye on it, but if we're all good, I'm going to move on. This is a dimmer pack. I found out about this a little bit late, but this is awesome. So you plug DMX into it, the same as any other fixture, in and out, but here you can plug in any lamp. So one of these, or a house lamp, or a little spotlight, or a garden lamp, anything. And it can change the brightness of that lamp using the value that gets sent into it. So you can have one of those controllers, and just the first slider on it can control brightness of all of these. So that beautiful Wonder Year show that I went to with the lamps, you could make something like that on a budget with whatever lamps you have if you're able to buy or rent something like this. This is this way is really, really cool. A lot of places have these to control just old stage lights that don't have like color. They're just brightness on and off. Okay. Oh, let me move out of the way again. Here, I'm going to have this again later. I'll be in the corner. Here is a link to the document that I have put together that has some of the manuals for these fixtures. It has some manuals for controllers, guides to some of the classic lighting software, places that you can buy or rent this stuff, the dip switch calculator, and some places to learn a little more about what DMX is and how you can use it. I will be bringing this back up later, so don't worry. Okay, now let's talk about one of my favorite things, which is specials. So I'm trying to think of a good metaphor for this in terms of music. Maybe like a really cool, weird synth sound, or a pedal that you bring out for special situations, for like the end of your biggest song or something like that. So if you don't have control over a whole lighting stage, you can have control over some special features that you can turn on and off to punctuate important moments of your set. Both of these that I have included here, my little disco ball and my moon, could be considered specials. In the big world of stage lighting, your normal colored par cans, and your moving lights and your stage dimmers are your normal fixtures, and kind of anything else is a special. You want to use it kind of sparingly, but this is where you're going to get most of your creativity in. Um, at a lot of those really, really cool shows that people were talking about that we were discussing before, they use special features, especially later in their set, to make these really big wow moments. One that I remember that really, really stuck with me was glass animals at um, Budweiser, formerly known as Budweiser. They had a giant disco ball come down just at the end of their set, like descend into it. And they had all these lights pointed at it, and it just shone across the whole audience and across every piece of scenery and backdrop. And it was special. Okay. Now I'm going to talk about the napkin CAD. I just recently heard this term for the first time. um, CAD, like CAD software, computer assisted drawing, most times lighting designers will actually have to like 3D model and arrange entire sets and stages. But even like professional lighting designers often will find themselves having to sketch out their drawings of their ideas of their stages to show everybody and anybody. I wanted to grab some examples of these that I put together, but going through my notebooks, I had a few too many to actually do meaningfully. So, like, here is an example that I made at Lee's Palace. It's got just the where the lights are, and usually I'll do arrows that show their positioning, and like upstage, downstage, left and right. And so even something like that can be really, really useful to plan your show and to communicate your idea. So I would like if anybody has a pencil or a pen and a piece of paper, you do not need to send me this, but for yourself, I want to take a second for you to sketch out an example of a napkin CAD for your set. This could be as simple as 3 ovals in the front and 2 in the back. You could have like a circle that's like a lamp here and a lamp here. I want to get you to start thinking about actually building your stage using the most absolutely basic tools. It's very, very important that you can conceptualize this before you go to a venue, but it's almost more important to be able to understand like what they have in terms of backline and know what you're able to do with it. So, oop, not bad. I have a folder here that I am going to share with you guys. And if I put it in the chat, can people see it? Can I get a confirmation or a thumbs up or a response? Can people see my message? You need access to the folder. Hold on. Oop. Let me do that. Thank you. Okay. Oh, let me make it editor. So what I would like is over the course of the rest of this, if you do draw something like this, you can take a photo of it and put it here. Let me share this as well. Thank you. I appreciate it, Emma. Okay, I'm also going to put this resources thing in here. This is what I was linking to before. I have my Understanding DMX manuals for those classic light fixtures that I talked about before, the consoles and the controllers, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later, and then extra resources and where to buy and rent everything. At the bottom here, I did a partial list of consoles at some of the venues in Toronto that I've like seen or used or been at. From the main industry standard one to no console, no control. And I can see that you guys can access it now. So thank you, Emma. Okay, so the reason that I would like, from the bottom of my heart, for you to make your own simple napkin CAD drawing is that you have something to go off of when you want to actually build your own set. Okay. Okay, so in this third section, I want to talk about what you can actually ask for. You go to a show, you're there for load in, you're getting set up, and there is a board, there's no lighting designer. Most of the time, unless you're doing a large show, there isn't somebody specifically automatically there. Even in like a medium size venue, like Monarch or Adelaide or something like that. If the sound tech is controlling the lights, you are within your right to ask for changes to the brightness, to go and shift the positions of the lights, which is called the focus, to change the color, and to have a differentiation between sets. You cannot give your sound tech a list of cues. That's just not good etiquette, and they're way too busy to be able to do that. You can't expect them to change anything while they have their other actual job that they are there to do. Sometimes sound techs are really into the lighting and will go and kind of play it like an instrument along with the performance, which is awesome, and I love that and I love seeing it, but usually it's too big of a job. So I've found that if I give specific instructions for, okay, first set, I would like it to be mostly pink. Second set, I would like it to be mostly blue. Third set, I'd like it to be mostly purple. This is simple, direct, to the point, and plausible. Also, with anything regarding your technicians, the more polite and interested and kind you are, the farther you're going to get with this. It's also worth asking for permission before you touch or change anything. If you unplug any lights to add in your own or change addresses, make an explicit note of what you change and put it back before you leave. Trying to think of anything else etiquette wise that's important. If you're able to do any of this before the day of, do it in a heartbeat. When you're talking about your contract, when you've got a tech rider, if you can get in contact with the sound tech ahead of time through the promoter any way you can, ask permission, like, can I mess with the lights? Or is there somebody that I can talk to change the lights? This photo that's in the background of this is from Hard Luck. I went there to see a few of my favorite bands performing, and I realized the lights weren't changing in between the sets. The lights weren't changing during the performances, and there just wasn't anybody to do it. A lot of bands don't bring an LD on tour until they're quite sizable, until they're big. So I just asked the bands, hey, do you want me to change the colors of your lights? And they said, yeah, ask the sound tech. I asked the sound tech, hey, can I change the colors? And he said, it's all yours. This board that they have there is the same one that I showed you before. And if you can know how to use it at a very just overarching level, you can change the entire vibe of the night. You can change the differentiation. You can change the energy of the room with a few faders. So it's really, really, really worth knowing how to use this simple common technology. Okay. Aside from what they already have, there's a number of things that you can do to set things up yourself. When you have your napkin CAD, you'll know what fixtures you want and where you want to put them. That's the first thing. That's the plan. You also need to consider power. A lot of places will have, a ton of outlets around the stage. but they get used up really, really quickly with all of the different instruments and everything that you have. Each fixture, unless you can daisy chain the power between them, usually needs its own outlet. So find out ahead of time where the power is. You can put it in your stage plot. That's actually the best thing if you can indicate how many outlets you need for your stage plot, and make sure that it's your plan is viable. The oh, the up is supposed to be if you're setting up yourself. The addresses, you want to know ahead of time whether you want to control everything altogether or you want to talk to each fixture individually. So if you want everything to be on channel 1 and you want to make all of your lights red or turn them all on during an intense moment or turn them all off for a blackout, you need to know that ahead of time. The number one thing that you're going to be concerned with when you're setting up your own stage lighting is visibility. Color, movement, any changes come second. First thing is, can the audience see you? And when do you want them to not see you? um, so visibility first, dynamics second. I cannot stress enough that you want, as a beginner in the realm of lights, to keep it as simple as possible. Think about it like an effects pedal that you're using with scarcity. You're only using it sometimes so that it really packs a punch and is obvious every single time that you use it. You want the change to make people go, ooh. You don't want it to kind of be background or distracting. In this picture that I used, I have a little display with 8 different lights. So I needed to make sure that I had 8 different places to plug it in, and I had cables to go between all of them. I had to make sure the addresses were spread out enough that the channels weren't like overlapping each other. Like, let's say you have lights that use red, green, blue. So the first one would use channel 1, 2, and 3, and the second one would use 4, 5, and 6. But if you have these and you accidentally overlap them, like it starts at 1 and you have 1, 2, 3, and the second one starts at 2. So it's like 1, 2, 3, and then 2, 3, 4. The signals are going to be all messed up and you're not going to get the output that you want. So you have to make sure that any addresses that you set your lights to have enough space between them or even more so that you're able to get the output that you would actually like. You don't need to use anything complicated to control your lights. Like I said before, you can just not use a controller, plug them into each other, and set it to either be a specific color that you can go and click, change the buttons to change the colors between the sets, or you can make it gradually change over time. And as long as they're connected, they'll do the exact same thing. But if you want basic control, you can get yourself one of those or control or a similar thing with a bunch of faders. Okay, the next topic is programming. Programming your own lights. Hold on. Okay. Programming your own lighting fixtures is a topic that deserves not even just its own presentation, it deserves its own entire course. It's a whole discipline. If you're into coding, I would highly recommend, as an artist, getting a little bit comfortable with programming lights. The main console that people use to program lights is called Grand MA. It's Grand MA2 and Grand MA3. When you go to a stadium show and you see these giant laptop, like triple looking things with like a bunch of screens and a million faders and buttons, that is almost always a Grand MA3. A lot of the venues the size of like Danforth, Opera House, Concert Hall, places like that will have an MA2. These are big, expensive, good pieces of technology, so the 2 has not phased out. So anybody that is a lighting programmer has to know both. MA3 has a version that you can do on your computer for free. You just can't like send it out unless you have all the actual hardware. So if you are interested in learning lighting programming at a bigger level than just, I am a performer and I would like to make this beautiful stage, that is what you learn. If you are into DIY things, like for example, I've been using this sustain pedal to trigger my own lights. I use a program called Touch Designer. I'm going to show you a little bit about that a little bit later. But Touch Designer is a way to combine audio, visuals, lighting, kind of any media. It's a programming environment that lets you create any connection interaction you want. And you can also have audience interaction with it. It's really awesome. The third out of three that I'm going to bring up is called Onyx. Onyx is when a club needs a lighting system and they ask a professional, hey, I want something that can be pretty robust, like control a lot of lights, but is user friendly, they will almost always be suggested Onyx. So places like in Toronto, Supermarket and Adelaide Hall, for example, use Onyx. I'm going to show you what that looks. I'm going to show you what that looks like. Okay, so yeah, so it might look something like this. This is the NX Touch. I've seen things like this at those places and also like Lee's Palace. The faders are the same basically as the one I showed you before, but they're like touch screens instead. Usually if you're going to one of these places and you see something like this, it'll be connected to a computer. It looks scary, it looks complicated, but typically it's the same thing where you're just going up and down with the faders to change things they've already set. So maybe they have like one fader that's labeled, it'll make a cool effect. One that's labeled like the master dimmer that changes everything. But you won't be actually programming anything in like the complicated computer part. You will just be running this part at the bottom. That is the playback. So the first step in any lighting thing that is more complicated than the first or control thing I showed you is the patch. That looks like this. And this is actually a really great thing to dive into a little bit closer for a second. You can see what I was talking about with the addresses a little bit more clearly. This might help you understand the more simple things a little bit better. In this example, each light uses 4 channels. For simplicity's sake, let's say it's red, green, blue, and white. So their first light has the address 1. So you would go on the light and you would go to the address menu and you would physically press the buttons to put in 1. And now anything you send out to address 1 goes to that light. You would go to your next light and you would go up until you get address 5. Your next light up until you get address 9. So whatever software, hardware you're using, you are going to use the patch to control the fixtures. In the example I showed you before, where this guy, there is no patch. It's implicit. They take all of that out of it. Instead of you being able to have different sized lighting fixtures in it, they make their patch. Each one is 16 channels. You won't know this by looking at the board, but when you Google or control DMX manual, you will find this right on one of the first pages that tells you what to address your lights. Specialist, napkin, setting up yourself. Okay, so you are bringing your lights to a venue. You are bringing enough power, cables, and extension cords and power bars that you need. You are bringing DMX cable specifically. If you're renting from Long and McQuaid, they are going to give you microphone cable. They're going to give you XLR. That's okay. If you're renting from somewhere bigger, like Christie Lights, for example, they will give you DMX cable. If you are doing lighting for other people or you're doing this a lot, it is worth getting your own DMX cable. In my resource sheet, I have in buying and renting. This place, AV Shop in Markham, is where I got all my DMX cable, and they have a lot of more bigger professional things. They have a lot of audio stuff too, but they're a good place to get controllers, anything, and they're the only place that I've been to in the GTA that I've been able to get a large quantity or really any quantity of DMX lights. Let me show you some of the options of things that you can rent at the kind of basic beginner level. Mirror balls, I love. Moving heads, I didn't actually include in the presentation because they're a little bit of a bigger topic, but I just want to show you offhand. They're quite expensive, but you can usually rent them. Longy McQuaid has some for a little bit cheaper. They work very similar to the other kinds of lights that I showed you. They have a place to put an address, the same as the other ones. So this one's addressed as 1, but they have a few more channels that they need. So this one might have red, green, blue, general brightness, and then it has a pan, it has a tilt, and a few other controls. So usually you're not going to use these unless you have a bigger, more complicated board, because you just simply will not have the number of faders that you need if you're using the simple one that I showed before. It has the same DMX in, DMX out. It has power in and out like the other one, so you can daisy chain it. But this is another kind of power cable. Any fixtures that are a bit more complicated than the ones that I showed you before are going to use this kind of power. So you need to make sure anything that you're renting that you have the power to accommodate it. It is power locking power cable. Okay. So the 3 steps for programming: patching, the programming itself, and the playback. In the programming, that's where you set your chases, which is the transition between the colors, your like dimming, any effects that you have. But when you're actually playing back anything live, which is the only thing you can really do on those simple consoles, you are really pushing faders and maybe pressing a button to trigger an effect. Okay, so here's where it gets a little bit more fun. So this, again, is the same link that I've already sent. It's the same thing as before, and I will send it one more time at the end. It is the guide that I have made where you can see all of the topics that I have talked about in this presentation for when you need them. When you get to that venue and there's a light that's misbehaving and you need to know how to fix it, this is where you will find it. So what I want to show you, now that I've kind of talked a little bit about a general overview of what you can do as an artist with lighting, is a few different ways that you can control it creatively. So I have a few different kinds of controllers that I use. This here is Touch Designer. And this is what I have created to control simple lighting for bands. I will bring my laptop to a show and I will just leave it out. And people have 2 scenes, main scene and effect scene. You swap between them with the pedal. Here, I'll just go through the instructions. So you select the band and you choose either your main or your effect, and you can edit the colors, the speed, the transition type. There's a toggle to sync the 2 lights, and that's all. I have found time and time again with artists we are scared of incorporating visuals and lights a lot of the time when it's not something that we kind of like already know about or that we find organically. A lot of this can be very intimidating. So the less options that you give yourself in a show, the better time you're going to have. And the more you're going to be able to create really distinct looks that go with your identity. So I have this open. And this is the only thing that I give people to change. And this is a perfect kind of way to think about it because any venue that you're going to that you can change a few things, you can do stuff like this. So there's the speed of an effect. There's in this how quickly it changes, 2 colors only, and whether you want the transitions to be soft or stark between them. So here is my band one, for example. I use, oh, I can't really take it out, but I use a normal MIDI controller for this. So when I'm actually performing or when anyone else is performing, they don't need to actually press any buttons. They don't need to go on a computer. You're already using tools that you are familiar with. That's the key to it. So, okay, band number one clicks on their main and let me turn them on. We're on band number one. There we go. Okay, we're on band number one. Let's say I want my main effect to be a very wide looking. I want it to go between orange and green. Okay. Maybe that's not intense enough. Orange and blue. And I would like them to go at the same time so that I get a really slow but constantly changing scene. Something like that does really good when you can only set one thing that goes the whole time. Is something with enough movement to make you feel like you're consistently moving forward, but not enough to be distracting. This kind of creates an environment, it creates the room that you're in. So go back to kind of what you were thinking at the very beginning of this presentation about the mood that you want to give your audience. And now I challenge you to think of a second mood. Any set is going to have dynamics in some way or other. And you want to think about what are the pivotal parts of this that I want to draw attention to. So in my band, Chasing Leica, we have some like yelly, intense moments in the songs that are towards the middle end of the set that we kind of want everybody to feel like the first adjective the first one I could think of was enraged, but that's not correct. We want people to like feel the intensity of the moment. So we have a couple colors that will be our like standard thing that changes, and it will go throughout the course of the whole time. And then in our special effect, I like to do a strobe. So in my little thing I've created here, that is small width, black and white, not soft transitions, and I do want to sync them and I want it to go fast. Okay, so I have my main look that I want to happen kind of the whole time. Any photos of the night, our set will have us like bathed in these colors. And what I like to do for some more change is unsync it. So if you have a static look, let's say you have from one side it's all pink and from one side it's all blue, you get a like kind of separation in the shadow that's really neat. And depending on which way you're facing, it'll look different. And then during a really intense moment, I will have my pedal right by my pedal board and I'll click it and I get launched into the second scene. Having a device that you can use to control with your feet has been proven over the last 3 years to be the most easy and accessible way for an artist to be able to control their set. So I can go and select which one is active and change between, and that is it. So if you want to learn more about how to build these kind of things in Touch Designer, feel free to reach out to me. This is kind of my specialty right now in design. And some other interesting ways that I've controlled it are with these guys. I have a few different game remotes. Then I've got another one here. I've got an Xbox Connect sensor, so you can control the lights by walking closer and further away. One thing I learned in my thesis was that people really like when you can see the artist controlling the technology. Like when you have a moment that you stomp on a pedal to make it really loud and big and distorted. A lot of people in the audience love to actually be able to see you step on it and the thing changing. And this also really, really hits with lights. So gamer modes, I'm working on a Dance Dance Revolution pad. Little ways like this are really cool ways to get the audience involved. And to kind of cap that off, I wanted to show a few more examples of the kind of stuff that I'm doing. So this one over here, that is a house show. There's a few venues that do DIY in Toronto that have like festivals that kind of like underground punk bands all get together, and having lighting in a small space, a small room, a small club changes the entire energy of the whole thing. This third one here was at a warehouse venue. Any place that is kind of like alternative, different, doesn't have a normal lighting setup, bringing your own fixtures makes a 180 like complete turnaround difference. The only lights that are in this set here are the two Orcan lights that at the time I had rented from Long and McQuaid. And my special was a little mover that I only turned on during the most intense parts. This second one here is one of my absolute favorites. Get out of the way a little bit. At the top here, the lights facing the audience, those are called blinders, which you may have been a little annoyed at some big shows when they just go on. The function of blinders is to kind of remind the audience that they are there. A way that it was described when I was doing my research was those moments when you're aware of yourself and you're aware of your own breathing. It's almost like meditation where you go like into your body and then outside of your body, and making use of that in a performance context can be really, really powerful. In this one, they wanted everybody to feel like they were like singing it together, that they were all part of it. They were all a community and all kind of like one living organism, which is really beautiful. These lights here are LED bars. These ones are the Titan tubes. Those are available for rent, and they are really, really, really cool. They're industry standard for in terms of LED tubes. That's what you're going to see on most big shows. That's what you see on TV sets and stuff like that. They're a little harder to control, but anything like that usually comes with an app. So anytime you want to add some like cool tech fancy lighting element, usually there's some more user-friendly method of control, so you don't have to do the whole big console thing. This one here is Silverstein at the Juno Fest this year. They had these really neat lights, these big ones, if you can kind of see. I can't zoom in. They're like these big, giant square panels that were really bright. And they functioned really well as both a general wash and as a special feature. If you're able to differentiate between types of lights when you're putting a show together, there are, I guess, three if you're really splitting it up. So you have your washes, which are your big colors that wash the stage in a certain color. So these guys are going to be washes. These are usually going to be washes. And you can aim them at the performers. You can aim them at like above the audience as blinders. Or these ones, I usually like to put them all along a wall to kind of color the wall, to color the backdrop. So there's washes, there's spots, um, typical spotlights, something that is pointed, obvious, highlights a certain section of the stage. And then you're going to have your specials. So if you're able to use all of those categories, you'll create a more like distinct and classical stage look. But if not, if all you can do is rent a few fixtures, you just want to use color and brightness to accentuate different parts of your set. And let me see if I've gone over all of the, oh, okay, here I have links to a bunch of the quick start manuals and the guides if you want to get into actually programming anything. If you are going on a small tour or if you want to bring any of this with you, it's worth looking at these in like this order to be able to have a show that is replicable and scalable across different size venues. But aside from that, I've gone through my material quite quickly, and I have a bunch of time that I would love to open to discussion, and especially to ask you guys what you would like to learn in terms of stage lighting, in terms of sets. I've talked a lot about various different types of categories of things and lights and options that you can do. And I'd love to go into a bunch of this stuff in more detail, but hold on. I would love to hear what actually would come in handy from artists of what you would like to learn, what you would like to use. So go ahead and scan or go back to menti.com and you can type in the code. And if you don't have any specific things that you want to learn, I'd love to hear how you plan on using lighting in your set moving forward. Yeah, take a second and let me know what kinds of questions you have or what you would like to learn a little bit more about. And also, thank you so much for being here and for listening to me talk about something that is my like biggest passion. Oh, how do the topics you mentioned come into play for outdoor performances? Um, at this level, it's pretty much the same thing. These lights that I have, the Orcans, they make a waterproof version, which is called the Orcan 5. And those are really, really great for outdoors. You're not going to be lighting the backdrop. You're not going to be lighting the walls of the set. So you need to focus on specifically the performers. One thing that you can always do is point the lights at reflective surfaces, like the cymbals of drums or even at a shiny guitar, so that you get little like glints going off in all of these different directions. Um, You can also use string lights, fairy lights. You can plug those into a dimmer. Um, ooh, I'm interested in trying out Touch Designer. What's beginner lighting equipment to get or rent? Um, Go to Long and McQuaid and get the Orcan 4. Hold on, let me move myself over to that side. I'll be little. Um, yes, perfect. Okay, if you want to use any computer software to control lighting fixtures, you need something that translates USB to DMX. The one that I have is this. It is the NTech DMX USB Pro. There is one that is a bit more popular on the market right now that I think is called DMX King. People use it for LED installations. So you need any basic fixture, you need a USB to DMX, and you need a DMX cable. Um, can you elaborate on how much of this you can be doing as an artist playing a gig versus what's available working with a lighting person? Of course. As an artist playing a gig, most of the work that you do is going to be ahead of time. It's going to be setting up a standard, solid stage look that does not change over the course of your set. So, like, how many lights do you want to be on? Which direction do you want it to be pointing at you from? And what are your colors that go with your brand? Um, that is going to be using like the basic tools that they have there or whatever you can bring with you. As a lighting person, I mean, you know, the world's your oyster. You can do a whole lot more. I'm trying to put myself in the position of like somebody that has never touched lights before that's going to a gig. It's all about what you're able to ask for. And the biggest thing I would tell you is to learn how that basic board works so that you can go and change the colors for your set ahead of time. What's your fave show you did lighting for or a dream artist you want to do lighting for? Oh, my favorite show has been upstaged recently. I would say it was this year I got to do Juno Fest in Hamilton, which was really, 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 really awesome. So I think lighting Silverstein for that was the best because it was so packed and the crowd was reacting to the lights and it was just an energy I would have been lucky to experience as an audience member, but like knowing those songs and being able to like go crazy on the board, it feels like playing an instrument. My dream artist to do lighting for, right now, I feel like I really like the Wonder Years, what they did, and their lighting guy. His Instagram, it's Glowmaster Jackson, and I'm obsessed. And I think like what they do is so creative, and I'd love to be a part of that. Um, Best versus worst lighting, colors, and actual hardware. Tip. Okay. If you want content from any of your performances ever, do not do red. Photographers will hate you. Red, like, flattens your face, and your pictures, unless they're black and white, will be useless. Um, Best versus worst lighting in my head. I think about like the venues that have the best and the worst one. Um, Colors, it's all down to personal preference. I really like blue and pink. I love orange. I'm not a big fan of green. The hardware, I really actually dislike those simple lighting boards because I always find that I want to do more. Um, I hate when I'm using XLR cables, when I'm using microphone cables, and whenever lights have a proprietary protocol, like if I can't use my gear because they're like, sorry, you can only use this with Yorkville, you can only use this with this, I think that sucks. So I think that's pretty vague, but it makes sense. Biggest event or concert that you did lighting for? Oh, um, that was the Juno Fest, I think. But I do a lot of raves for lighting, and those tend to be larger. Oh, okay. Actually, the biggest one I did, other than the Juno Fest, was a like 3-floor electronic music event where each one had like a different theme and was like a big room. Like there was like a fashion show and like an underground thing, and mine was the like jungle kind of theme. And we were able to use projectors that matched with all the different fixtures with these gorgeous giant sets. And oh my God, I love a theme. A theme goes so hard. Good examples of good lighting systems or shows or bands or artists that you would recommend you. Yes. Oh, I do. I went through my phone searching for all my favorite examples of lighting over the years, and there were too many to count. One big one that I have in my mind is turnover. Um, keep. Oh no, I reset it. Okay, wait. Okay, okay, we're good. We're good. We're back. We're so back. Um, okay. There's a band called Turnover Lighting Tour 2025. It all really, really depends on like your vibe and your band, your performance and everything. Oh, they don't have any photos. So Turnover had these lights that were like in a long row, and it was like these pixels that individually moved, which was so cool. You may have seen that at a bunch of other, a lot of artists are using those on tour in the last few years, but those are beautiful. And they created their set to be built around the lighting, which is why I use them as an example. They have a backdrop that was textured, like it looked folded, it looked kind of crinkled when they raised it up. And I kept thinking that they were going to drop it and reveal the actual like band logo or something like that. But turns out whenever you pointed lights at it, it created different shadows and it looked like a forest. It looked like trees. And it blew my mind. Anytime that there's an artist that creates an actual scene with their lights, that's what you should be looking at for inspiration, especially at this point. Another artist that did that really, 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 really well is Haley Williams this year. Um, Tour 2026. She had, I don't know if you can see the lighting so much in this, but she had this like these curtains kind of, and she had like chandeliers and bits that were in front of and behind them, which was just superb, which was gorgeous. um, who else? I mean, the example that a bunch of people gave earlier with Tame Impala, that's really, really great. um, you probably don't want to be looking at a lot of those big stadium tours. You want to be looking at stuff that's a little bit more intimate. If there's any artists that you can think of that have done like big artists that have done smaller tours, they've had the budget to make smaller areas look really, really beautiful. So you should definitely kind of check that out. I mean, Lady Gaga's tour, where even though it was like, arenas, was made to look like small rooms. That's, oh, oh my God. It was honestly fantastic. It was so architectural, which was stunning. And she used a lot of these like monochrome looks, which I love. A monochrome single color is just so, so powerful. Um, and you can see how she used it to highlight different elements of the stage and to make it feel like different sizes and perspectives. So totally look at the Lady Gaga stuff. I mean, just go on Pinterest and check. Oh, Noah Khan. I saw a ton of photos and videos from his show that recently happened, where he used creative lighting in the set. This reminds me of that. I don't actually know who this is. Saw our show in Toronto. What is that thingy? Oh, the box. Hold on. Let me grab it. Sorry, I got too excited. This is my NTech DMX USB Pro. However, I recommend DMX King as well. This I wouldn't be able to use on a tour because it can only output a certain amount of channels, but it is really, really, really good for prototyping. If you like programming, you can also do it with Arduino. Um, yes, I saw her show in Toronto too. Yeah, you are so welcome. All right, let me see if there's more. Is there an alternative to red that you would suggest that give the same vibe? There is a way to use red correctly. Yes. Um, use red as if you're using a special fixture. One of my favorite looks is when you have, let me do it here actually, so you can see it for example purposes. Okay, red and red. Oh, oops, wrong one. Red, red. Okay, and let me turn this off. See how it completely washes out my face? If you had the red just behind you and you take the front and there's no light there and you're just backlit, you get this, I wish it was a little more obvious, but you get this like glow, this halo of light just around your form, and it looks evil. It's awesome. And using that kind of like sparingly is like so good. Like using it really, really, really starkly and intensely. Just make sure it's for small, brief periods. And if you want to use red as a color in your general set to match your vibe, make it not just red. Have the light that's right at your face be a neutral color or something else. Typically, for most sets, you want to have like a neutral or a simple warm or cool white or yellowish right at your face and everything else behind. So red is fine if it's not just red. Okay. Hold on. Okay. Um, let me see if there's any. Are there any more questions that you guys have? Any more that you want to know about now I'm thinking of purple with yellow accents. Oh, purple with yellow accents in the background and spotlighting me. That's gorgeous. Purple and yellow go together so well. And the fact that you're kind of thinking about it in terms of splitting it up distinctly into a color for the environment and a color for the spotlights is exactly what you should be doing. Were you thinking of for the live stream? So Alyssa said, now I'm thinking of purple with yellow accents in the background and spotlighting me. If you have the option of the lights right in front of you, you usually don't want it to be a stark yellow. You usually want it to be CTO, which is color temperature orange, which is just the term for warm white, as opposed to CTB, which is color temperature blue, which would be like a cold light. And also changing between those within a set, or for simplicity's sake, between set number one, set number two, set number three is really awesome and super powerful. To kind of go back to this question here, there are a lot of ways that you can control the lighting as an artist simply over the span of the whole night to ramp it up. Like, you're supposed to increase the volume decibels wise ever so slightly. Like a concert will gradually get louder typically as the night goes on. So you would normally, the lighting would get more complicated as the show goes on. But a lot of times, especially when you're in charge of it, you can't really do anything crazy. So what I might do for the first set is I will make it relatively neutral. I will have it mostly be the front lighting that's like the normal dimmers, the normal stage yellow, white fixtures. And then for the second performer, maybe I will have it still be mostly lit from the front and have just like a color. And then for the third performer, I'll cut a couple of those front lights to make it more spot as opposed to spread out. And I'll bump the brightness of those backlights and I'll make it a cooler color or slowly change between two. So even though there's not too much changing going on in each set, you are still getting the sense of it getting bigger and amping up over the course of the whole night. Okay, there was another one. How do I get in this? Okay. This is the most goofy question. How do you feel about LED versus incandescent lighting? Like the bright white versus warm white. Well, okay, that's a really good question. My main feeling about it in terms of plausibility is LEDs don't get hot most of the time, and incandescents do. Incandescent will give you a lot of time that like classic stage look, but as the technology is getting better and better and better, LEDs can mimic it like exactly. Um, and also, that's why LEDs have a bunch of different channels. So, like a RGB light, the way you get white is you put R, G, and B all the way to full, but it won't look the same. But these lights that I have also have an amber channel and they have a UV purple channel. So bumping all of those to full creates a more holistic white that looks a little more like an incandescent because it has more parts of the visible spectrum in it. You can also imitate it more by like taking out the UV and bumping up the amber, and now you have a slightly more yellow one. With incandescents, you can't control them as exactly. They're really, really good at the one thing that they do. And at a lot of newer places, you will find only LEDs, a lot of the newer, bigger ones. Hold on. So, okay. Bright white versus warm. I'm also really partial to warm white, just of how it looks on my skin. Like if I am performing, I feel more comfortable. I think it's also just like a sensory perception thing. I feel more at ease in warm lighting. But there's one moment that I do in my set where everything cuts out except for one light. And in those kind of spotlight moments, I want a like typical stage light incandescent, like your in Glee, like those cuts of like Rachel Berry on like imagining herself on Broadway, and there's like you hear that big noise and the light comes on. I really like love that. And I have a friend that I do lighting for that has a kind of like Bruce Springsteen kind of feel, where he wants something that's really similar, but with like a little bit of haze and fog, so you can see the beam and the shape of the light cutting through. So it's really good for that. Claire says, I love the incandescent lights despite how hot they get, especially in a band sweater. Oh my God. Yeah, they get really, really, really hot. And also, it's hard to focus it when it's hot. Like if they've been on for a while, you can't actually like go up and move them without. I've gotten actually burned before, and not to mention like sweating through your clothes on stage. That's never the greatest thing. um oh, how do you pair colors that complement each other or look good together on stage? Color wheel. Well, have I got a resource for you. um Stage lighting color theory. It's a whole giant big topic. If you're asking how I do it, I like to have pairs of colors that are opposite on the color wheel and pairs of colors that are complementary on the color or next to each other on the color wheel. And I will use them depending on the vibe of the song. Something I probably should have gone over how I light my songs. I make an energy chart the way that you may do to create a set list order. And then anything that's like above a 5, I'll use contrasting colors. And anything that's like below a 5, I'll use similar colors. So you can use like that difference the same way you may use dissonance in music to kind of accentuate the feeling. The purple and yellow example is really, really great for opposite. You can create really dramatic looks with it. When I use purple and yellow, I will also use blue and orange. So if I have a main look and an alternate look, that maybe I like my more intense songs will be alternate. I'll have like 2 different contrasting options to go through. And then when I'm in like a more chill section, maybe I'll have like a pink and magenta and like a blue and green, and I'll switch between those. So like my sad chill songs would be like blue and green, and my like more hopeful chill songs will be like magenta and orange. um it's also super important if you haven't been thinking about color as red, green, blue, if you've been thinking about it as red, yellow, blue, to kind of switch that in your mind for this, because it is very different. There's also a really important topic in stage lighting of RGB lights versus CMY lights. A lot of the spots, they put color together in a subtractive way instead of an additive way, which you can see here. So they use cyan, magenta, and yellow instead of red, blue, and green. This is important because you can't control the lights the same. Like if you have a light that uses subtractive, um, like your magenta, not your magentas, your greens, any of them, they won't look the same. Some colors are brighter with LED lights, and some colors are brighter with moving heads or CMY lights. And it's really a matter of going and testing it out and seeing like what works for what you want. So this will explain like the absorption and the reflection and everything, which is very helpful. Color wheel. So keep in mind that anything that's complementary, that's, oh, wait, I'm blocking it. Anything that's complementary will mix to white. So if you have like red and cyan on either side of you, then anywhere that they cross over won't be red or cyan. You'll get like a more simple one. You'll get a white area as opposed to like a green area. Here, this is a good section to look at. Your objectives. Number 1 is visibility. That's always going to be your most important thing. 2 is your revelation of form, for depth, for shadows. I really, really love the idea of the back of the stage not being like fully visible until the end, or like highlighting the sides, like making the whole thing look completely different. Composition is what you were talking about with the like choosing which colors to use. It's just one element of the whole thing. Mood is in like that's what is kind of in my heart, creating the mood of it. And information. So if you kind of don't know where to start with what to choose, head over to this, and it's worth taking a read. There's a whole bunch of other lighting principles that you can dive into if you'd like to. There's a whole world. But don't overwhelm yourself with it. That's kind of the biggest advice of all of this that I can give. Like, start simple, start small, do what you can, and when you get more and more comfortable to keep adding more and more elements to your set, to keep changing things, go ahead. But first, like, just try changing the colors for your performances, see what feels right, see how you can get something that feels like you, and and kind of go from there. This is kind of the coming to the end of the actual formal presentation for this. To remind you guys, my name's Rachel. I'm Rachel Halpern. You can find me on Instagram primarily. at Can Rach Make It, where I'm always posting my experiments with creating artist-facing controllers for lighting design. I want to make it easy for you guys to have something that you can use on stage to make gorgeous, complicated sets with the click of a button. That's my focus, and all the lighting design that I'm working on. So if you want to stick around for some more question and answer, then feel free. But otherwise, thank you so much for coming to my presentation and hanging out with me to talk about lights. I really appreciate it. And also thank you for the co-op for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you so much, Rachel, for being here. That's all in the chat. We'll say our thank yous. To wrap us up, just wanted to say on behalf of Canadian Musicians Cooperative, we'd like to thank you, Rachel, for sharing your expertise, knowledge, and resources. And for anyone watching this live stream publicly, we have many more public workshops planned during the summer season, as well as our Barns to Beaches showcase tour. And you can find more information about the co-op and what we do at our website, canadianmusicianscooperative.coop. Thank you for joining us, and thank you, Rachel, for joining us today as well. We
Thank
really
you, Emma.
appreciate you.
I really appreciate the opportunity so much. And I hope that I've inspired some of you guys to make some really beautiful sets. Thank you. I'll stick around for a few more minutes to answer any questions. Otherwise, have an awesome day. Um,
So as we wrap out, as we wrap up, uh, for the artists that don't have any more questions, we are going to be moving you to breakout room workshop 1. And Rachel, I'll join you in a different room so we can do our wrap up. Okay. I don't think there's any more questions.
I think we're good.
Yeah. So I'll move you to that room right now. I just need to find your name on this. Oh, where are you? Claire, do you mind giving me a hand? I cannot find it. Thank you.